So I get down the line and I ping one, but it's not my best cross. He's running and it's behind him. So he's gone and it's behind him. Turned round and he's Ronaldo'd it over head kick top corner. And I'm like, that is one of the best goals I have ever seen.
It must have been the time of your life at Chelsea.
And I'm standing, and this guy bumps me. Oh, God. And I've got a glass of wine. And he bumps me again. So eventually I said to Adrian, I'm going to have a word with him. The guy's a joke. Well, and it's Jagger.
Pat, a big warm welcome to you to Football, Music and Me. Now, you've been a keen follower of the arts, including film, theatre, ballet and literature. From an early age, politically aware, and has always spoken up against injustice. He's the author of 2 highly acclaimed books, a widely respected broadcaster, and is much in demand as a DJ.
Very good. Can I edit that? No, you go, carry on, finish.
Oh, as a footnote, he had a pretty decent career as a footballer as well.
Right, so my edited version of that is loudmouth, smart Alec, and kicked a ball a bit. Is that all right?
I think that's the thing with you is for your entire life, or certainly since you've been known to the public, people have tried to pigeonhole you and they can't.
Yeah, it's interesting because you do get that. One of the worst things, it's a bit Monty Python. And people say, oh, you're really intelligent football. And you go, no, actually, I'm just really normal. Oh, you must be really clever to say that. Well, you can't win then. It's just that Python is, you're not the Messiah. So in the end, you just be yourself. And you'd grow and you change as you go on a bit. Like, so, I often said it, certainly in my first book that I wrote a while back, that I was quite earnest when I was younger. I'll be honest with you. But then you should be.
Exactly.
You absolutely should be. But less and less so. I think I was quite mature when I was about 19. And it's been a process of getting rid of that maturity.
So you're like Benjamin Button, you're going in reverse.
I try to, yeah.
Hang on, I've got to finish the football bit.
I'll go for it. There was football, yes. I remember that vaguely.
Yeah, a more than decent career, starting out at Clyde before spending 5 years at Chelsea, followed by equally lengthy spells at Everton and Tranmere Rovers. He finished by returning to Scotland with Kilmarnock and Motherwell. You represented your countries at the Euros in 1992 in an international career that saw you pick up 28 caps as well. That is, in all seriousness, I'm sparing your blushes, you should feel really proud. That is a really solid, fine football career.
I think the thing, pride's not a thing I particularly like, but I'm kind of happy with one part of it. 850 first team games. That's actually not bad.
It's superb.
For somebody who didn't want to be a footballer, you know?
Well, listen, I loved your book. By the way, The Accidental Footballer, and I will plug this. If you haven't read this is your first book. Yeah. It's a fantastic book. I loved it. I really loved it. But I did think you could also have entitled it The Alternative Footballer.
Yeah.
But just reading it. I'm obviously in my career, I've come across so many players that have worked so hard to become a footballer, how it was their determination, their obsession, their never give in attitude. You nearly did your very best not to be a footballer.
Well, first of all, to remember, and what is really important is I had all the same dedication. I had all the same passion and love for actually playing. So I did the hours. I've done the 10,000 hours and loved doing them. But did that make me want to be a pro? No. I just done it because I liked doing it. And it's that dichotomy that people never quite understood, especially back then. Now, you remember yourself. Back then, it was a different world. Before Premier League, before Sky and all that, it was a different world. You were supposed to talk a certain way, act a certain way, say certain things. And I just thought, no, I'm not buying that one. I'm just going to be me. So it was kind of hard to explain to people. I remember one particular one, and I was about 18. Celtic had me get rid of me, and I went, fine. And the teams had come in and tried to ask me if I would maybe come for trials. And I'd sometimes go, sometimes wouldn't. But eventually I sort of fell into playing for Clyde because I could do my degree and I could carry on playing football as well. And they pay me 35 quid a week. How many albums can you buy with 35 quid a week back then? Not so many now, I think. Maybe one. But that first season, after trying really hard not to get into the profession, I'm kind of in it, even though I don't want to. But I thought, I'm just going to keep on enjoying it. If I keep on enjoying it, it'll be fun. Don't have to make a living out of it. I'm still doing my degree. I know where I'm going to go. But eventually, quite quickly, it went well. And that first season, we won the league with Clyde. I got Scottish Young Player of the Year. Won the European Championships with Scotland under 18s.
The under 18s.
Got Player of the Tournament, and I'm thinking this plan of not being a footballer is failing miserably at the moment, really badly. And the one bit that really got me was I got that award, and for Player of the sort of Young Player of the Season with Scotland, and it was Jock Stein, of all people that had to do
the legendary,
phenomenal. And in my family, there's a kind of there's a trinity where you've got God, the Pope, and Jock Stein, but not in that order, right? So it's usually in the other order. So big, and he chatted to me, and he just bore into trying to find out about me. And he was the first football person that really kind of got it, along with Craig Brown, who was the Clyde manager, that really got, it's okay to be different, not completely involved in the sport, but yeah, still be utterly dedicated to the craft. And it took many people years and years, and it took me most of that book to try and explain that that's fine. And the reason for doing it is to explain to other people in any industry, it's all right to be different. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. There's room for individuals. But I think that's the thing to stress, because when you move from Clyde to Chelsea in the early 80s, we are talking, it was a different planet to the one that we live on now. And football was very regimented. Behaviours were almost sheep-like, pack-like. You know, you had to fit in with the dressing room.
I can remember the day I first heard Kraftwerk's Autobahn and how different that sounded from everything else. And thinking, I'll have some of that. But even, I mean, back in that time, I mean, you talk about my musical taste, what I'm known for. It is very wide and very Catholic, but I'm kind of known for the indie stuff because hopefully I've got a knowledge of that, but I love it too, and I use it when I'm DJing. But at that time, Pink Floyd, Genesis, definitely Bowie, obviously, because you have to. But that wasn't pop music, was it?
No.
And that's not what was in the charts. So that was what people would have been playing late at night. So that was the kind of stuff. But then, late 70s, a mad thing happened. You know, punk happened, post-punk happened. Massive changing of the guard. I didn't change the guard. I just added to my likes. So I didn't dislike everything that had gone before like you were supposed to do for this year dot. I don't do that. I don't have bigotries and biases like that.
No, you like what you like.
Yep. I'll just stay with it. So even if I remember having a great chat with Danny Baker about this. And Danny was big forefront, a lot of punk stuff. He was a great writer with the music papers. And I remember him eventually owning up and saying, yeah, my favourite album is Selling England by the Pound by Genesis.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, this is the hipster guy. And it's Gabriel's second last album or whatever. So, you know, people just, they didn't own up to it then. I remember at the time thinking, I don't hide it. Whatever's good musically in different genres that you like, there isn't such a thing as good and bad. It's just what you enjoy. Simple.
How did you, did it ever impact at all on your time at Chelsea? You going to gigs or the bands you were looking at?
Yeah, lots of times. I had to cut a lot of these out of the first book. There was too many. And they were saying, do you want this to be a music book or a football book? And I went, I'm going to make it my book. Because, I mean, the thing is, I wrote it myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have a ghostwriter, so it's mine. So if it's rubbish and you don't like it, I can't blame anybody. It's my fault, right? But I just loved the music stories that were involved. And at the time, so I mean, I do remember there was one brilliant occasion. I mean, I got to meet John Peel eventually. And amazingly,
hang on, you're skipping over it here.
Yeah.
So he's your musical hero because he played all the types of tunes you liked. There was so much on his show that appealed to you. But you were writing a column at the time, weren't you? A weekly column.
Yeah.
So tell the story properly.
The weirdness of it is, 1920. I've just come to Chelsea.
You're playing for Chelsea,
but I've also just come not expecting to get a game, but become Player of the Year in the first year I'm there. And it's like, this is not supposed to happen. And it all went incredibly well. We won the league. We got to the top league, which is the Premier League now. and they asked me to write a column for the Bridge News, which is a newspaper. How cute, how sweet that is. They had a club newspaper. And I said, yeah, I'll write a column, but it has to be about music. So, like, bless them, they went, okay. So they let me do it. So I was writing all this mad stuff about the up-and-coming bands. But then I said to him at one point, maybe I should do an interview with John Peel. He likes music and football, you know, and I'm the same, and it worked for the column, and we're playing Liverpool in a few weeks. So they went, okay. So yeah, I did what you always did then. You'll remember this. I wrote a letter.
And posted it.
How unthinkable was that now, really? You wrote a letter. And
you mean you didn't reach out on social media or message his agent?
He didn't have an agent. I didn't have an agent. The BBC would have just binned you. Anyway, he wrote back and just said, I'm really sorry, I'm very busy. I just said I work for a small West London newspaper. Anyway, he wrote back saying, thank you, maybe another time, I'm very busy with my shows. So I wrote back, and it was, honestly, to this day, it's such a cringe. I wrote something along the lines of, thank you for your recent letter, John. I would like to do the interview sooner rather than later because the team I play for, Chelsea, are playing against your team. Yeah, not subtle. Okay, not subtle, right?
Oh, shame on you, Pat. This is against everything you stand for.
Exactly.
You've sold yourself out. You've played the footballer card.
No, I've played the Do You Know Who I Am card. But with some subtlety, I hope. Anyway, I wrote him saying it'd be nice if we did it soon. You know, lovely, nicely worded letter. Anyway, left the phone number. Anyway, he got back in touch right away. And we met up, done the interview, and
was he embarrassed that he didn't recognise the name because he's a proper football fan?
Yeah, but I was only in
but
the
you've
Premier
been playing.
And yeah, I've been playing.
You just got up the first division.
Yeah, just come up from the division below, and now just in the first division. You don't know all young players, and I didn't have that egotistical an outlook anyway, so I wouldn't expect that, you know. And that's, of course, you remember I'm talking to my hero, so no way. So the lovely, and so in a weird world, within a little while, I'm meeting up with Pele. We're going for curries. We're, you know, going to gigs together. I'm sitting in on his show because he'll play the records sometimes at the right speed, and I would be taking the notes of the numbers along with some of his other friends, 2 or 3 of us, and he never said that I was on. So that was my kind of evening, sometimes just hanging about with Pele. And it's like a dream scenario, fantastic. There's some, I mean, I could go on forever and ever about the stories about that. But the one time was, we went for a curry one Thursday night. Actually, it was a Monday night. We went for a curry one Monday night. And I got ill after it. Must have been a bit of food poisoning. We were playing Norwich City away from home on the Wednesday. I missed a game. I missed only a handful of games my entire time at Chelsea. I missed a game. And it was that. So it's maybe unprofessional, but I would quite often have a curry a couple of days before a game. You know, it was okay. I wasn't carrying any weight, as you may remember. But we drew 0-0, and it was a great moment in dressing room. It was okay by Saturday. And the boys were a chat to us. And in the papers after that game, it was 0-0. And John Neal, the manager, went and said, look, it was okay, it's a decent result, but without Pat, we didn't have any creativity, so we couldn't really do it today. And Colin Pates, remember Colin?
Yeah,
Colin Pates, he goes, bloody hell, Splixon. He called me Splixon. Can't believe it. You weren't even playing and the manager gave you man of the match. Bloody teacher's pet. But he said it with fun and laughter. And that was the joy of it, that he understood, the manager understood that the players were all right with me.
Yeah.
They didn't have a dislike because I was different. Often it is the case, I'll be honest with you. People who are different are ostracised. But if you're a strong enough character and you can talk and laugh and, you know, not trying to fit in, just be yourself, they see it as a curio. I mean, the journalists did as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what we're like in the media. You instantly you do pigeonhole, and it's, you know, you were indie Pat Nevin with your hair, the boots, your whole look, everything about you, because you were different as well.
But here's the weird bit, right? How
that's
did you
your label.
Can I throw this back at you then?
Go on.
I was getting
I
slightly.
didn't say it was right, by the way.
No,
it's just what happened.
But I remember getting a couple of lines in a couple of newspapers were taking the mick out of a bit, saying, I mean, now it sounds as if I was the most hipster of hipster people. I was explained as this scruffy wee kid who bought his clothes at a charity shop. Like, yeah. Now, that's actually quite a hipster thing to do these days, but maybe then when everyone was trying to look as smart as possible and, was the new romantics, and I'm walking about like a scruff, deliberately so, may I add. But I remember getting really annoyed, and that was the time when afterwards, the days where there was no press conference. You come out if you scored the winner or whatever, and you stood against a wall, and 6 journalists just went round you. And I thought,
quick word.
The quick word, right? So, and I was getting wound up, and they said, "What's your favourite band?" Then expecting me to say something stupid like, and then nobody knew these bands like Half Man, Half Biscuit or whatever, and they didn't know this band's name I mentioned, and I said, "Well, I was just about to say Joy Division." I thought, no, I'm going to wind them up. I said, there's a band I like called Joy Davidson. And they went, oh, right. So the headlines were, he loves Joy Davidson. So me and my 10 indie kid friends that were loving it at the time going, sniggering away at the wind-up of the press. But that would have really annoyed them, wouldn't it, that they got that wrong?
Yeah, okay. Smart arse. We'll have him.
Well, but I thought they'd had me by taking the mick at him. It's slightly too much. So it was my kind of...
Yeah, have some back.
Maybe one or two didn't take it as a joke. I meant it.
But you didn't just. You didn't just enjoy the music as in, okay, I'll buy a record and listen to it when I'm at home in the evening, and that'll be fun. You took it to a whole new level in that actually actively going to find record shops where they sold the type of music that you liked, and then also progressing to meeting bands, meeting the artists, and being part of the scene.
Well, you meet them because they're not that big. So you're at a gig, and afterwards they'll come out try to sell tapes. You just chat to them, So they're that small, and they become great big bands in time. I remember a lot of the bands who were tiny little bands when I started watching them became world famous.
Which ones?
I remember.
If you think of the journey, like we saw them when there was nobody else there, those early gigs.
There was one week where I went to see 2 bands, and there was about 50 of us there. One of them was a wee band called Simple Minds, and the other one was a small band called U2. And you'd done all right, And I was a big fan of Joy Division, but then New Order. I remember going to see their first gigs, and empty, nothing there. But they're seen as kind of rock and dance gods now. And so there's millions of it. It's not that I'm clever. I just listen to John Peel. So it's not one. It's just I had more in common with the musicians. I have an outlook in life and about creativity and arts and things. So that was why you'd fall into some of them becoming really good friends. But it was just a passion. We've all got our passions that we follow, and nothing's better than anything else. So, but I did take it to the edge. I'll grant you that. Like, go to see the Cocteau Twins in, the story, and it's absolutely true. In those days, you could get a flight to Paris from London. We trained at Heathrow.
Harlington.
Yeah, Harlington. Right
Absolute
beside it. Dump. A horrible place, right? But how quick can you get to Heathrow from there?
You could probably walk to Terminal 1 in 10 minutes.
So I'd take my wee car, drive in and park it there and get a standby ticket I got a standby ticket this one afternoon. So we get Wednesday off, right? So Tuesday afternoon, finish training. I usually stay for extra on my own, but this day I want to get away, standby ticket, get to Paris, get on a train, down to the centre of France, in Bourges, to see the Cocteau Twins. Watch the Cocteau Twins, nowhere to sleep, sleeping under the band put me up in a room, so I'm sleeping under my big coat. Anyway, did a little bit in Paris, got the flight back in the morning of training, because it's at Harlington. Fly in, can see the players actually going out in the warm-up as I'm landing. Get there in time, and nobody is any of the wiser. And you just look at it now and you think, if you like a band now and you're a footballer, you hire your own private jet and you go over and see that band. I mean, where is the fun in that? Let's be honest. I mean, where is the adventure in that? So I'd go and very frequent back up to Glasgow to see gigs and see bands. I remember one night, and you can see this on YouTube, it's got to go for one of the very first games that was televised on the BBC. Friday night, and Chelsea were playing Manchester City, and it was my first season. Anyway, I scored a goal
at City.
At City,
yeah,
and got lovely headlines, man of the match, wonderful things like Bobby Charlton saying, I reminded him of Tom Finney.
Oh.
I mean, you might as well just chuck it at that point, right? That's it's never going to get any better, right?
That's mic drop or boots drop.
Yeah, I've had enough, right? So after the game, everyone's come back. So you are this upcoming famous footballer. So what did I do that night? No, I went to Hacienda, obviously, in Manchester. But the Hacienda wasn't a kind of mad sort of Manchester club then. Nobody was in it. It hadn't taken off. Tony Wilson had kind of got the venue there, but the music hadn't arrived yet. There was only about 10 people in the Hack that night. But I wanted to see this because it was Factory Records. It was a lot of my favourite bands. A number of my favourite bands had been on there. And while there that night, I met Vinnie Riley, who became one of my great friends. Tony was there as well. Tony Wilson became great friends as well. And then at 3 a.m, I'm sleeping on the station at Manchester train station, again under the big coat, waiting for the milk train to get back to London. And I've got headlines waiting for me there that I've just scored this goal to win this game to basically get his promotion to the top level. But see, being able to cope with that when the whole world seems to think you are absolutely hopeless, and especially your peer group as well. And I'm thinking, do you know, for all the things footballers, and I have little in common with so many things about them, I still admire them.
Oh, absolutely.
Still admire a lot, not all of them, but except when they dive about and cheat. But apart from that, that I can't cope with. Don't start me in that, by the way. I said this once. I was talking to Robbie Savage, doing a radio program, and he said, how many games did you play in a career? 850. You always go on about people diving. Did you never once dive in 850 games? I went, no. I went, well, you know that immediately? I went, yes, I do. Because you didn't dive.
Because it's an honest answer, yeah.
Because you didn't dive. What you did, you actually did the precise opposite of that. You tried to stay
on your feet. Never show you're injured.
Never show you're injured. Don't roll about.
No, don't let them know.
Everybody who's listening out there, right? Kids, see when somebody rolls about in the grass, injured, there's nothing wrong with them, okay? See when you're injured, you stay still.
Yeah.
Just a little thing to note there, just so you know.
There's a clue.
There's a wee clue there. See when you're really injured, you never move. You stay stock still because you don't want to damage it, right? But people who do that double roll and you think, oh, get up. So, but everyone, all the other sides of it, I was explaining to, like Robbie, that it shouldn't be a shocking thing. On that side of the game, I change. But other than that, there's so many things about pros that I still have a lot of respect for. They're just normal blokes.
Well, you like the game. It's as simple as that.
I do.
You like football.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been the time of your life at Chelsea in terms of you're doing something you love, which is football. You're good at it. You're supremely fit. And you are right in the heart of the music scene to the extent where you'll get artists popping around your flat playing you their latest tapes or something from the studio.
Yeah, that happened.
It happened?
Yeah. I remember one of my mates was Richard Jobson, used to be in the
The
Skids.
Skids?
Yeah.
Into the Valley?
In the band called the Armoury Show after the Skids finished. And he was making a track up in Notting Hill Gate, and I live in Kennington. And
Hypocrite.
he ran, exactly, there goes the cred. He ran down the street. It's about a mile from Notting Hill Gate down, banged on the door, flatmate, and let him up. They came in, right, shut up, he's like, listen to this, and he put on his new tape, which he had made half an hour before. This was the final. And he's standing there singing Castles in Spain in front of us. And I'm thinking, this is a weird life, but I quite like it. So your point, which is a brilliant point, and actually, cool, you've got to the nub of something few do. The time of your life is a great expression. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was a great time. But the time I had at Everton, the time I had at Tranmere, the joy of my year at Kilmarnock was probably the happiest, most enjoyable year of football I ever had. I'll grant you the 4 years at Motherwell were incredibly hard.
But you just said the year in football. Mine was a more encompassing label.
I'm just about to get to that.
And also, you still had that, the impetuosity of youth.
Yes, I know, and you've not got any worries about children and all that. You can still be a bit indulgent.
Yeah.
Yes, there is that.
I'm
but
sticking with it. Even
stick with
though it's
it.
your life and you're entitled to
know.
choose.
No, but I've just been so lucky and so blessed because after the football, I finished doing that, and which I've got a second book. The first one's the Accidental Football, when we've talked about a bit here because there's a lot of music in that one. The second one's the second part of the career, and it's. I think it's a bit better written. I'm happier with my writing with that one. Can I say something about the writing? I didn't tell anyone I was writing these books. I just went and wrote them, and then took them to a publisher, and you wait to hear back because you don't know really. And they met up and they said the best thing anyone could ever say to you. He said, "You can write." Just something as simple as that to come from a very good top standard editor. I said, "You can write," which is really nice.
I really liked it because when I read it, I just thought it's you. And I read it in mind. I mean, I don't pretend to know you that well. We've been around each other for a long time. Yeah. But in my head, I could hear your voice and it just felt like you.
Well, that's the loveliest thing to hear. You'll hear a more stressed version of me in the second book.
All right, I'll go on to the second book.
But no, I'm not trying to push you on there. But so that period is interesting because I had children. I mean, is that not one of the best things that happens in your life? So I don't think of life like that. And if you think of the third book, which may appear one day.
Third in the trilogy.
Yeah, and it always was going to be a trilogy. The third one, think about the life I had then. Now, you'll know this as much as anyone. Travelling the world.
Yep.
Going to see games. Getting paid to visit cities. And that's the joy. That book's the one I wanted to write first. Because that's actually the most fun. No pressure, no stress. Just having the joy of, I love travelling. One of my utter passions, like a lot of people, is travelling. They're paying me. There was one game I went to. You probably have. Give me your version of this once I give you mine, right?
Go on.
The moment you think, those idiots are paying me for this, right? And everybody in our industry's got this, right? So mine's is, I went to the 2002 World Cup. I'm based in South Korea. I deeply, deeply love South Korea. Love culture, love lots of bits. I'm not sure about K-pop, and there are certain negative things that happen in Korea, but I love the maturity of that country. But also the beauty of it and the people, and they're kind of, they're known as the Irish of South Asia. And I get it, right? But there was one game where we're going to Jeju Island, and back in those days with the BBC, we were in a 5-star hotel. You don't get that anymore. And I was staying in a 5-star hotel for 3 days on the top of a cliff, overlooking the best beach I've ever seen. I am a fanatical and always have been a fanatical wild sea swimmer. There's nobody on the beach except these big rolling waves. It's heaven on earth. I have only one piece of work to do in the entire time I'm there, which is to walk down to the most beautiful stadium I've ever seen in 80 degrees to watch Brazil play. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo. And I'm thinking, these idiots are paying me for this. And it's just that brilliant moment. So you ask about the great days of your life. No, there've been a lot. They kept on going.
Well, that's a fabulous thing to be able to say.
Come on, what's yours? You're not going to win this. Come on, you must have one. You've been at a game and you thought it just needs to be a game.
But the games. See, so for me, for you, it was about scoring a goal when you were playing, and when you're broadcasting now, it's about getting it right.
Yeah.
For me, it's pre and post match interviews. It's getting that moment. It's capturing that emotion just as they've come off the pitch.
So when it sticks, come on.
2005 Champions League, Liverpool. You know, it was like an impossible comeback. Just crazy. I was on the pitch I was there for Talk Sport 1999 when they did the treble, and we didn't have passes, proper media passes. So with United losing, as they bring, the podium that they present them on the pitch, it was like a cartoon. I snuck behind it as they bring it on. I was actually sat on the end of the Bayern Munich dugout when the final whistle went, and then the stuff that's come kind of with it. So, I mean, this is not said as a name. This is not a name dropping thing, but it's sometimes you say to yourself, is this really happening? So I took Mick Jagger to a game in
As you do.
It was the game in '98. Well, I organised his arrangements and stuff. It was through a great friend of mine. It was France '98, and after the game, we go back to the airport. They're on tour. They're in Amsterdam. He had his young son. James was about 8 or 10 at the time. And he said to me, "Where are you going now?" So I'll go back to the hotel. He said, "Will you do me a favour?" I said, "Sure, what do you want?" He said, "Will you take James home to his mother? It dropped me off in the jet in Amsterdam, take him home to his mum." I said, "Sure, Mick, no problem." and actually, sorry, I missed a bit. Before the game, Pat, my friend sidled up to me. He said, "Look, Mick wants to talk football." He said, "Do you mind sitting opposite him at dinner beforehand?"
Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. So we've got this table here, right? So I have to bat one back at you, right? I have to bat a Jagger story back to you, so I'll give you one back. I was at the WAG Club. You remember?
Yeah, the WAG.
Right? It's a cool place to hang out. I didn't go there very often, but there was an old jazz musician called Slim Gaillard who was playing there, and he'd played for Ronald Reagan back in the day when Ronald Reagan was a movie star. So, but a great pianist, used to play it back to his hand. Anyway, it was good night. But I'm standing at the bar with my flatmate, who happened to be the editor of the NME.
Yeah, Adrian Thrills.
Or do you know and for the Chelsea players, only ever known as Adrian Don't We All. Adrian Thrills. Don't we all? Right. Anyway, so
Good nickname.
Good nickname. Another
Very footballer.
Another Patesy one, right? So I'm standing at the bar at the WAG, right? And the WAG's cool, right? Nobody bothers anyone. And I'm standing, and this guy bumps me. Oh, God. And I've got a glass of wine. And he bumps me again. So eventually I said to Adrian, I'm going to have a word with him. This guy's a joke. And it's Jagger. I go, God, you can't really do that. You can't really dig him up, can you? And I'm taller than Jagger. You know, he's small, isn't he? He's really small. And anyway, he's doing all these hand motions. And I said to Adrian, I'll have a dig at his mate, see if we can stop him. Because I don't want to embarrass him. So I went to turn to his mate, Bowie. Nah, just leave it. And to this day, and I'm taller than him as well. Bowie wasn't tall. He's really the kind of musicians are short guys. It's really weird. There's lots of them.
He was one of your heroes.
Yeah,
what do
he
you say
was.
to Bowie?
And that was the one where I thought, should I say anything? And I thought, actually, you know, I'm not. I mean, if I was introduced to him, I'm sure I'd love to talk to him, but I'll leave it. I'll just.
Pat.
No, because he's got a lot of people. I know from the other side that sometimes you like being talked to and sometimes you don't.
Yes.
And there's certain places you go to where you know you're going to be left alone. The WAG was one of them. So,
yeah. Wasn't the time or the place.
There was a kind of unspoken agreement. You didn't do that, and he wasn't acting. He just looked. Both of them looked really relaxed. Don't stop that. Don't do that. Don't impose. I didn't need to. I mean, it was nice to see the guy. I'd seen him live quite a few times. I was at a game recently. It was at Inter Milan playing Lazio. Somebody said, "Classic, we do." So, Pat, when was the first time you came to this stadium? Bowie 87. Typical me. It's not a football game. It was going to see Bowie.
Spiders from Mars tour?
No, it was Glass Spider.
Glass Spider.
Yeah, Glass Spider, I think.
Glass Spider tour, yeah. I saw the same tour at, I think, Wembley or Milton. No, Milton Keynes was Serious Moonlight tour, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, both of them actually melded into each other. I wish I'd have seen him earlier than that, but never did.
I saw him a tiny Hammersmith Odeon.
Oh,
2,000 people.
Oh, that would have been extra special. Recently, here's the one, right? This is typical of our conversation, going mad, right? But I must own up, like, this is how much of a non-musical snob I am. So, going to see bands all my life, there's been great moments, and I love writing about them as well. Certainly in the first bit of the Cocktail Twins concert that still almost makes me well up. It was so phenomenally beautiful, RFL, so it was so. But recently, I went to see the ABBA Voyage thing.
Oh, at Stratford?
Oh, my God.
The Avatars?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, everyone says it's sensational.
Unbelievable. And I'm the one that's not supposed to get that. ABBA's songs are brilliant. They're great.
Agree with you.
Compliment. But I didn't expect to walk out thinking that might be the best thing I've ever seen. And it's, that you don't expect that to come from me. And the reason for mentioning it is not to give them publicity. They don't need it.
I think they're doing okay.
They'll be okay. But can you imagine if we could somehow get Bowie in that same situation?
Well,
or Prince or whatever. it will happen eventually. But because of the whole thing, I will not give anything away about that ABBA thing if you've not seen it. It's impossible to tell it's not them actually there. It's impossible. You feel you are in the room with them. It's. I didn't know our technology had gone that far. So I kept on thinking all the way through it, right, who do I want to see? I remember having tickets for Bob Marley and the Wailers, but he cancelled and then he died before he came back again.
Oh, right.
So I never saw Bob. So there's all these, I'm trying to think of all these big ones. So one day in the future will happen.
So we, as you said, this podcast started because I don't know why it started, to be honest with you. Probably because I left Sky and I had time on my hands. But there's always been, although you're probably not the perfect example of it, or you might be, I don't know. Do you think there has always been a synergy, or what's your reading of the relationship between football and music?
It's good because quite a lot of musicians would like to be footballers.
Nearly all.
Yeah, and quite a lot of footballers would like to be musicians, be that DJs, be that writers, be that in front of us. There are the synergy. The biggest synergy is you're a show off to some degree.
You're an entertainer.
I would argue you're a creative.
Yeah,
but I think it is my real joy of anything I do is creativity. Because when you create something that wasn't there before, and it's all right or even good. One of the best feelings, you know yourself, if you write something and you go, that's all right, that's quite good, that, and it's a good line and it works well with the bit before it and the whole thing comes together. And I mean, I'm not jealous or envious, but the great writers, when you see them like Woodhouse, you know, God, you did it 10 times a page, right? But if you get it once every now and again, it's brilliant. But music's like that, the pure creativity and then people getting it. Football's absolutely the same. I mean, one of the most obvious questions people say, what's the best goal, the favourite goal you've ever scored? And I immediately, I'll trot one out if you like. But it's not. It's the one that you created. It's the one
assist.
it's the one that you made by dragging 3 people that way, understanding what's going on 20 yards behind you, timing everything, and then it all works. And you've done all this, 4-dimensional chess work in your head. And you put it in, and the centre forward taps it in, run away, go pointing at his own name, and you go, you arse. Because you've done 99% of it. But
do you agree with you? Bergkamp says a similar thing.
Yeah.
And you think of some of the goals he scored.
Yeah.
Just astonishing. But he talks about, and if you look at it on YouTube, there's a goal he creates for Freddie Ljungberg against Juventus, and he's surrounded by 5 Juventus players, and he does this most outrageous feint that way, and he flicks it with the outside of his foot that way in the penalty area, and Freddie scores. And the look on the players' faces, it's like the end of The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
When he realises guys associate who it is. Oh, magical.
It is a brilliant moment because you are working at a level and at a pace that people don't know. You can't live in there all the time. Well, some people live there quite a lot. Like Messi does live in there quite a lot. Zola did quite a lot of the time. But now and again, you're in that space where you're in slow motion.
Do you think perhaps that's the core of why you've always been so interested in music? I know you're interested in lots of things, but because you're a creative player yourself and you're drawn to creative people, to artists.
Yeah, that's the base. Yeah, 100%. And that's why it's not a discomfort. It's not, oh, me, I'm not selfish by scoring the goal and being the big guy I am. It's always felt so secondary. The most important thing is the team and the creativity. It always was the case. You're talking about goals, right? So if you went on YouTube, there's a goal I scored against Manchester United for Everton, 1-on-1 with Jim Leighton keeper, and I scoop him. Long before there was the Czech player, Poborski.
Yeah, Karol Poborski.
Yeah, became
Euros.
known as doing a Poborski.
Yeah,
and I'd been doing it a decade before. Right, thank you. So, but
power of television.
I know, but this one was on telly at the time, but not quite the same level. But it was against Man United at Goodison Park, and people often say, they go on YouTube and go, "That's an amazing goal. It's so cool, and it's one of my favourite goals." And there's actually one of the most famous Liverpool players who was in those days an Everton fan and was behind the goals when I scored it, always mentions it to me in the press room when I go in. But with Chelsea,
Are we talking Cara here?
I couldn't possibly give away the name
Yep.
of that individual.
It's well known he was an Everton fan.
I know, but Fowler too,
Yep.
Robbie. So anyway, you gave it away slightly, did I not? But a few years before, I'd done a similar move for Chelsea against Sheffield Wednesday in a game. Ball shot in at the wall. The entire defence ran towards me. I describe it as like elephants and bedknobs and broomsticks. They're all running towards me like that. And I'd do the scoop and beat the entire defence, hit it past the goalkeeper, back post, David Speedy heads it in. I like that one better than the goal that I scored.
Assist.
I like the assist because there's more sophistication to what you did and more creativity. And it doesn't matter if you score it or they score it. So Bergkamp's absolutely right. The joy of something that's more creative is much more better, much. Did I say more better? Can we cut that, please?
No, you said it. Yeah, you've ruined all your credibility. the supposedly
my English has gone down.
celebrated literary genius is Pat Nevin just said more better. See, so you can't go. You're a footballer, really. Come on.
No, in actual fact, it's a bit interestingly. Actually, that's a good area to go into very briefly. That's actually championed now. Deliberately getting English wrong.
Okay.
In certain media circles, you must see it. That there are certain people who
Malapropriisms?
No, I don't think they are. I think they're just language is changing.
Yes.
Language is changing, and certainly within footballer speak. Say the word ask. Say the word ask.
No, Pat. We're just old. It's as simple as that.
No, I'm not complaining about it. I'm mentioning the fact that it is changing, and it's intriguing.
Of course.
And I will always speak the way I speak. I'm not going to start saying ax instead of ask. I won't say that, right? Because I don't come from that generation that says things like that. And other sort of phraseologies, like some people would say more better, and you could say that in BBC and it'd be fine.
Yes.
Yeah, but me saying it is wrong because...
Oh, no, you still sound an arse.
Yeah, I sound an arse when I say that. I completely and utterly take it. It's one of those moments where you say one word out and if you hadn't mentioned it, it'd have been left, but you mention it yourself and then 5 minutes later you're still winding yourself up. And do you know what? I love that. Because you're not taking yourself seriously.
There's one part of your book I really, really, really chuckled at because it kind of encapsulated several areas of your life and your interests, and I want you to tell me about it. In that you had the chance. I don't know how it came about to meet Morrissey, who was living in Manchester at the time. And what I like about this, it's not just because you're a music fan. Of course, you're a music fan, so you want to make this is an icon, cultural icon. Also, you wanted to meet him because you're interested in his mind, and when you read this chapter, it's as I would expect somebody from the Bloomsbury set. We're going to go and see whoever, an author or a great literary figure, for an exchange of views and understanding, and you achieve that. But then the best bit, you say, "Let's go in the garden and play football."
Yeah. I actually think it was Vinnie Riley that suggested that because Vinnie was there that night as well, just the three of us. That chapter of that night was twice as long originally when I wrote it. There's much more to that story. And everyone I say that liked that part always goes, "Why didn't you leave it all in?" Well, you can't get everything in.
No.
You can't get everything in. But it was kind of a lovely moment because he was an interesting character. It was a good juxtaposition between the life that he was living and the life that I was living within, but we could still talk and connect at a certain level. But it's also quite funny.
He tested you out though, didn't he? He was
He tried a few, but I mean, people understandably want to know your musical knowledge or whatever. And with some people that can be a bit annoying, but he was just trying to find out because he didn't know me or suggested he didn't know me at all. I think Morrissey does not always tell the complete truth, but that's fine as well. That's actually a bit giggle
Artistic
as well.
license, genius, etc., etc.
But there was lots and lots of fun parts about it. But certainly, I knew that I had to bring it back to football in the end. But the fact that one of our players was trying to, at that point, get into his house because Norman Whiteside lived in the same street, and I'd told Norman that I was going to see this. I didn't tell him it was Morrissey. And Norman came out, having had a few, quite a few, trying to climb over the fence, trying to get in. Well, when I had gone. It's a really nice story, and anyone who likes
mad story.
It's a master. I'm not going to give too much away because it is a good one. But the other thing was, when I wrote the first book that had this in it, you know, it's like with books, they want 90,000, maximum 100,000 words, and I'd given them 140. And there's a lot of stuff. So, in actual fact, that was the one story of that ilk that I left in, but I took a whole bunch out. So there's somewhere...
You can leave us a couple now.
Oh, I've
got one specific question. Well, actually two. One, I was chuckling that Morrissey feigned disinterest and lack of knowledge of football. Yeah. How did you find him out on that?
Oh, yeah. When I tricked him back. Because I'd said to him... we were chatting away, and he goes, I asked him, do you like football? Have you ever liked it? It was a tricky question for him because he should say, no, I'm not interested. But that's too obvious. But if he says, yeah, I love it, well, that puts him in a different category. So it's a tricky question, but he got out of it quite well. And I said, and I mentioned, I said, well, there's a guy called Norman, a guy who signed for us at Everton who lives around here, actually, Norman Whiteside. And he too quickly said, oh, Norman used to play for Manchester United. Oh, no, United. And I went, good knowledge for somebody who doesn't know anything about football. He's going to give away slightly.
Yeah, gotcha.
And he sniggered a little bit there. But, no.
Look, the most important question from that episode, was he any good? Could he play?
I wouldn't have been judging. I was hanging about with him.
Yeah, but you know if someone can play. Did he look like he could play? I'm not looking for a headline here.
Not a hope of being a pro, don't worry about that. Although I do know a lot of musicians that were...
I was going to say, best you've seen? Yeah, I mean, you kick a ball about with anybody.
Yeah.
Who can play?
Stuart from Bell and Sebastian, singer for the Bells, is a very good player.
Decent?
I mean, a really good player. Yeah, and I don't know why I say this, but you wouldn't expect it, but he is. Quite a few. I remember taking Simon Raymond from the Cocteau Twins, and a Cocteau Twins ethereal band and all that. And I took him for training myself. John Miller was there as well that day. And we could go on Stamford Bridge in those days. So I said, I'll go wide and I'll just put one in the middle. Simon, you should just put it in.
Hang on. You've rocked up to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, because I live round the corner.
So this is a non-match day.
Yeah.
They let you in. And you can knock the ball around on the pitch.
I can't remember if this was in the book or I took it. May have been one of the ones I took out. I can't remember.
It's not in the book.
It's not, right? Okay, good. You've got an exclusive. So Simon comes, and Simon's big, tall guy. He was bass player, piano player, etc. He now runs Bella Union, which is probably the coolest record company in the country, stroke world. Anyway, I said, well, I'll put one in the middle. John Miller goes in goals, and Simon, just you try and head it in. And it's Stamford Bridge, and basically, he's a big Spurs fan as well. So I said, I'm just giving them a chance to score a goal, right, at Stamford Bridge, you know. So I get down the line and I ping one, but it's not my best cross. He's running and it's behind him. So he's gone and it's behind him. He's turned round and he's Ronaldo'd it overhead kick top corner. And I'm like, that is one of the best goals I have ever seen at Stamford Bridge. And your first kick, and he's overhead kicked it in, and he's got asthma, and he's going, thanks. You can't do that. Now, I suspect he probably couldn't do it again, but it was, you just say there are good players. The boys from Madness were decent players. So a lot, I've came around quite a few. Jim Kerber's not bad. So you get around and there are some very good. Jobson was good. Jobson, big Richard, yeah, he's a player as well. There have been one or two I thought, actually, had you decided football instead of music, you might have. I mean, they always tell me that Rod was okay, but I know I've seen Rod Stewart play.
I've played with Rod. Oh, this is embarrassing. See, I'm going to do the back here. You give your Rod story, I'll give mine back. You know the famous Cluffy line, and it's still one of my favourites.
Go on.
Sinatra, he was another one. He met me. I always feel like that. And it was a Sky thing. It was before an Old Firm game. And it was with Dean Holdsworth. We went and played on the pitch in his garden. And look, I was only a pub footballer, but I could, having seen lots of footballers, yes, he was good. He could strike a ball. He's physically very fit as well. He was good.
I've got a Sinatra story and I've got another Rod story, but I'm not going to give you. I'm going to give you a different one instead, right?
Go on.
Right, talking about...
Actually, I was going to ask you a question. Before you go down that line, I was going to ask you a question. Why, or have you, I'm not aware, did you learn an instrument?
Yeah, clarinet, saxophone. Nobody knows.
Why?
Well, because...
No, why does nobody know? Not why did you learn them?
Because it wasn't any good. No, I played a school band and all that sort of stuff. But no, it was bass clarinet. But look, let's be honest about it. When you're 14, 15 and you're trying to impress the girls, which I was.
Yeah.
And continued to do so for many years. You're not getting the girls with a clarinet. You need a saxophone. That's why Bill Clinton played saxophone. And I went to the saxophone in the school band and they said, no, somebody. And I went, right, okay. And I didn't carry on. I stopped.
I'm surprised.
I think it was pure time as well. I'm one of these people, my daughter's so similar. Unless I can get really quite proficient at it, I'd rather listen to somebody else play that.
Yeah.
They're great at it. So, yeah, you can get a tune out of it, but I'd go and I want to see and hear people who can do special things with it as well. So I've only ever sang once with a band, never really personally wanted to be on stage, none of that stuff at all. So,
can you sing?
I sang once with a band. I was terrible, but it was quite a good night. I sang one song. It was the band, the Bluebells. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember the Bluebells. What was their massive hit?
Young at Heart.
Yes.
But I knew Bobby a little bit. So, but I sang once one night in Glasgow for them, and the place went wild. It was good. I sang a version of a new song that was out, but I changed the words. And the words.
Suit the audience?
Yes. Well, the words at the time were, you will know the song. This new band called The Proclaimers had just come out. And they had a song called When You Go, Will You Send Back a Letter from America?
Yeah.
But if you can remember back in the times, Graham Souness had come back up to Scotland and was the Rangers manager.
Yes.
And I, at that time, was a Celtic fan. I have since changed. I'm a Hibernian fan now. But I went on stage and sang the entire song, but I can remember the first two lines, not the rest of it. When you go, will we send back Souness to Sampdoria? And it was a whole song written, basically slaughtering them to take a look at the fullbacks, 2 million and their crap kind of stuff. Right, so all that sort of stuff. And it went down an absolute treat. And it wasn't just Celtic fans, Rangers fans got it. And I was at that time a Scotland player, so they all kind of got the joke. And it was great. And it was a great moment. And at the end of it, Bowie said to me, oh, that was brilliant, let's do another chorus, do it again. And I went, no, leave it. That was brilliant.
Know when to walk away.
Know when to walk, know when to stop. And we did at that point in time.
Okay, so you've refused to tell me your other Rod and your Frank Sinatra story. You said, I'm going to tell you another story.
Another one, because we'll need to move moving quite soon.
Go on.
But I was... that's the kind of third phase, this third book it's basically written. Can I tell you a story? Very quick edit. I finished the first book and I wrote it and gave it to publishers. They liked it. The day it was coming out, they said, this is going to do well. Everyone that's read it said, this is really good. And it was great. It became a Sunday Times bestseller. And that's fabulous. What a lovely thing. I mean, I'm so blessed that I get all these bits of luck in my life. And they give you, the publishers take you for lunch in the day. I didn't know this thing about publishers. They take you for lunch the day it's coming out. Because there's nothing you can do. You've done all your stuff before that.
My publisher didn't, but anyway.
Some nice place down in Haymarket in London. So we're sitting there. And he said, Pat, this is going to go okay. Have you thought of writing another one? I went, yeah, there is. Give him my USB. He goes, what? He goes, that's not the way it works. And I went, well, it's the way I work. So the second one came out. But the third one, I'll give you one little story, memory from it, if you don't mind, just up front of where that's going to go eventually. The paperback and the second one's out in a month or two. But the third one, eventually, when it comes out, love the travelling. It is a travelogue. It's about all the places I've been and all the weird things, because I didn't do the normal things when everybody went out and had a bar and a few drinks. I did weird things. But everywhere I went, I went running. And I still do so. In fact, a few weeks ago, last week, I was in Prague on the Tuesday. I was in Munich on Tuesday, Prague Wednesday, and then Liverpool weekend. You know, so it's like that life.
Yeah.
But you go and see things. You go and see the art. You go and see the different things. And I've had all these World Cups. But anyway, I was out running one day, and it happened to be Munich this day. And at the end of my run, it was about 4 or 5 years ago. And at the end of my run, it's a big grass area. And as I was coming up, there's a guy there kicking a ball, playing keep it up. And you can't resist it.
You can't walk past the football.
No,
yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
Gives a touch.
International thing for football, right? There is an internal. Get your fingers out, go, yeah. And this guy, and he's a black lad. You could tell by the build, what you were saying, you can almost tell by movement. You can play, right? And I thought, you can play. So he's kept the ball up a wee bit. So he's passed it to me and he smiled. I have no German. I don't speak German at all. Just hello or whatever. And football. And he kicks the ball and I kick it back. And then he does a wee kind of half volley to me and in my feet. And I, that's quite good. So I kicked it up and half volleyed it back. To which he's got it. And then a little juggle, quick juggle. And then kind of half volleyed it back. And I thought, bugger that, I'll show him. So I used to do what they call, the tricks now. So I kept the ball up, kept it on my foot, lobbed it on the head, then dropped onto my back, let it roll down my back, backheeled it up over the top of my head, and then volleyed it with a little bit of Louis straight back onto his foot. And it was really good bit of skill. I was into keep it up, right? So I knew how to do this stuff. I think I'd actually rolled it around my back as well. So anyway, he looked at me and he went, so we walked over and I said, Fußballer? And he's like, yeah. Professional, amateur, professional, yeah. Bundesliga 1, 2, 1, 2. And he's going, 2. And I got the word for trialist. And he went, yeah, trialist. And I said, Écosse, you? He said, Nigeria. I said, you speak English, don't you? And he went, yep. Fine. I said, look, mate, you're very, very good. But idiot. You're very, very good. I was really, you've got some skill there. And he was a young guy. I said, you're on here on trial? And he said, yes. And I said, look, we'll keep it up because you're such a good footballer. He goes, no, I am good. I have watched you. You are fantastic for an old man. Oh.
He's killed you.
And I just thought, yeah, I deserved that. And one of the joys, I suppose, of the writing and the kind of life of it is just laughing at yourself. And I've spent a lifetime doing that a lot of people used to take. I mean, before you really met me, I think from the outside I probably look quite serious and all the rest of it. And I'm when I have to be. But in actual fact, having a laugh through all these different things, never taking yourself too serious. And I have a phrase when I'm listening to people being interviewed by the likes of yourself. See if they ever say the phrase, I'm not getting the respect I deserve. I think you should be able to punch them straight in the face. You're just kicking a ball, mate. That's all you're doing. You're kicking a ball. Get your head around that. So that's kind of wraps it around to where I am and where I've been, but also the fact that in this phase that I've been doing for quite couple of decades, 2 or 3 decades now, it's actually been almost as much fun. But I will tell you one thing, and this is absolutely true. Somebody said to me, what's the greatest game you've been to? I've been to Champions League finals, covering them, quite a lot of Champions League finals, World Cups, you name it. The least important game for Clyde away at Montrose was better than going to watch the Champions League.
Because
you're playing. It beats it every single time. So maybe that answers your original question, which was, the great days and all the rest of it. I'll be honest with you, that utter joy of it, being yourself, being the creative, not much beats that. Having said that, Writing books isn't bad. It gets close.
Oh, fabulous fun. Pat, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Really, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to the third and the fourth book as well.
You'll see. We'll eventually get around to putting out.